Hello, I'm giving another short book review. This time it's this particular book by Shaun, Confessions of a Bookseller, and it follows up on his first book, which was called, I believe, A Diary of a Bookseller, and this is very much in the same vein. A year or so afterwards, and it goes through the whole of a year, talking about his sales, his contact with customers, his contacts and dealings with sales online. We have an annual festival in Wigtown, I believe, September time, and he goes into the preparation and the parties and the fun they generally have then. Right, let's get down to it. My overall advice to people thinking about buying this book is you will find it very entertaining. It does go into quite a bit of daily detail. I think Shaun will admit the book as a diary writes itself, because things happen on a day, he writes it down and you get to find out what's happened. The daily sales figure is very interesting, and it's the same in both books. The winter figures, particularly January, February, are very poor, but come the summer and the influx of tourists to the area, particularly in the autumn when Wigtown has its festival. I believe it's called a book festival, it may be just a general festival, but it is very interesting how the figures will go quite high some days, maybe £400 or even £600 sales on a day, which is quite impressive. Having said that, it is either the biggest or one of the biggest second-hand bookshops in the whole of Scotland. He does have wages to pay to staff, which in our bookshop we're too small to do that. And one thing is very clear: if you have got a collection of good books, get in touch with Shaun, because he does seem to pay a fairly good price for decent collections, partly because of course he knows he can sell them either in the bookshop or online. Now, one thing the book is not, it's not a guide on how to run a bookshop. It does tell you things which happen behind the scenes. He does tell you about amusing anecdotes and some of the amusing customers he gets. He even has a go at some of his staff, which can be entertaining, but it's not so much how to run a bookshop. That's something you have to learn for yourself, and learn what sells in your bookshop. For example, I mentioned he goes to different places. He will go and give a good price for a collection of books, but only when he's fairly sure he knows he can sell the books, which is good business practice. But it's not something you can learn from a book. He's had to learn from many tens of thousands of books, shall we say. So it's not a good guide on how to run a bookshop. It doesn't claim to be, but it is an interesting and amusing diary. And I bought one, and then I bought the second in the series. Shaun Bythell is worth looking up on YouTube as well. Smart guy, and he realised, I think at the time, he couldn't rely just on bookshop sales. As I mentioned before, they have a low season where sales will go down to £10 or £15 on a day. We get it in our bookshop, but we're a far smaller enterprise, and we don't really have a low season as such. We will still have good days, albeit not on the scale which this larger bookshop will do. And also we have found that we've had to sell a combination of new and second-hand books, whereas the Wigtown bookshop is almost entirely, I believe, second-hand. So if you enjoy tales of bookshop woes, go out and buy this book. The one small criticism I will have is that he does tend to concentrate on the faults of customers and time wasters, and all bookshops get people we complain about, but I'm sure he has some really dedicated bookshop supporters in his area, and perhaps he could praise those people. I know in our area I tend to complain at times when we get people time wasting or trying to bump me down £1 or £2 on a price, But having said that, we do have a lot of people who support us very well. Okay, marks out of 10. I'm going to give it 8.5. A very entertaining book. Go out and buy it if you enjoy anything connected with selling books or bookshops. That's it.